Hey gang, Mocha Boy here. Welcome back, and thanks for tuning back in. So we are at the end of our war cycle. We're actually doing one more bonus war because everybody was so pumped up to go into this. So that gives me a little bit of time to go in and start doing the recaps from this war. I'm going to change up the format a little bit just to make these videos a little bit easier to parse through, because I noticed that a lot of people are actually watching through the entire videos. And it can be a little tough to find the content that you're looking for. And typically people are just coming in and they want to know how to 3-star a particular base. But so what I'm going to do is one analysis, one video, and then just title it appropriately and make it a little bit easier for you to find. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. We matched up to Albania, really great clan. They had about 69 war wins. We did not win this. We lost by 1 point. But that was because we left a lot of bases exposed to hogs, unfortunately. And we've gone ahead and fixed that for future wars, but these guys capitalized on some base defects that we had that we're addressing. But anyway, one of the reasons that I wanted to show this particular video, this was from Bob. He's currently sitting in our rank 29 position, and he went up and smacked their number 16. They're playing in the number 16 position. This was a first attack, so after the first scout, he went in and went ahead and 3-starred this base, and he 3-starred it with a GoHo. A couple of the planning considerations that typically come into play with these. We're going to go over some of the planning considerations that come into how to attack a base like this. But just let me get my thing going. Okay, so quick base assessment. The bombs are easy to spot. There's only a couple of spots where they could be, and typically they're going to be in between the defenses, along with Tesla's right about there, or possibly even up here. No big deal. What that means is this entire side of the base, so this entire side of the base is all hoggable. There's no traps, maybe some springs in between some of these, but the thing about a base like this is that when you see something like this, you have to bring the way that you assess a base like this is after you have figured out where the bombs could be. The next step, obviously, is whether or not they're going to be an issue for your hogs, which in this case they're not, because they're probably going to end up being split up. And this is, having bombs split up like this is the same thing as like having no double giant bombs. You really need the hogs to trigger off both of them for them to be effective. So what this means is you're going to be able to hit this base. You're going to be able to hit this base in a serial fashion, 2 strings to roll through the base like that. But then obviously there's the question of what to do with the AQ. So after the lure comes out, we're gonna pull the lure over into the left-hand corner, deploy our witches to counter that CC, and then drop a golem right here to start heading in towards the AQ. And if you guys remember, the whole purpose of the golem in this exercise is, number 1, to soak up damage for the kill team, but number 2, to draw fire from the AQ. Once the AQ starts beating on the golem, anything that's within range of the golem is going to key in on her and work on breaking through walls to get to her. So that's a key part of making sure that GoHo even works. So again, as far as attacks went, this was a textbook attack. Perfect lure, perfect CC counter, kill team survived, hogs deployed and went around the double bombs, the heals were spot on, everything was perfect as far as hog raids are concerned. So let's go ahead and just watch that play through. So yeah, one of the things that we joke about in clan chat is that the hogging base is simple. It's only a 72-step process. In a lot of cases, they look really easy, but they look really easy because they were rehearsed. And they were rehearsed against a particular script when it comes to dealing with bases. And as far as the script's concerned, step 1 is always grabbing the clan castle with as few troops as possible. In this case, the clan castle was an easy lure, so 1 giant was enough to dump out the contents of that clan castle. But step 2 is going to be dragging the clan castle over into a section where you can work on them, and that usually requires just 1 archer. Ideally, if you can't use an archer, then use a barbarian and drop them in the furthest corner possible, so that by the time they actually hit a building, they will have spent all this time slowly kind of walking over into that corner. But step 2, and this is one of the tricky things with one of the ways that we like to deal with CCs is with witches. But deploying witches is actually a little tougher than a lot of people would think. When you want to deal with the clan castle, the most important thing is that you drop distractions in front of the witches. So distraction number one is going to be the archer. The clan castle is going to start to make their way over. Immediately start dropping your witches so they start spawning their skeletons. But before the CC actually engages those skeletons, drop barbarians in front of them. So archer, whiz, whiz, and then barbs in front of them. Usually about 3 or 4 is good enough, and then save a few more in reserve just in case your kill team starts to get overwhelmed. But that's a really, really important deployment process that some people struggle with. That's the way that I do it. I like to offset my witches, and then if you have wizards, drop your wizards right behind the witches so they follow in a serial fashion. It's one of those things that you just got to practice, and the basic idea is get your witches down early, drop distractions in front of them, drop the wizards behind them, and then collect. Now the other thing that you have to deal with when dealing with moving into the base is taking care of these trash buildings, or at least breaking the trash buildings. And that's really just to ensure that the kill team stays focused on moving in this direction. If you don't do this, then they could potentially have a tendency to split off and move in different directions. So you're going to see all of that come into play here as we go through this. So Giants got the lure. It's only a couple of wizards, a brace of archers, and then a witch. It's pretty standard. So you've got the archer anchoring the lure, a couple barbarians to distract, and then the witches go to work. The wizards come in on the bottom and on the top to break that chain of trash, and that leaves just these buildings as a breadcrumb for the Archer Queen and the King to go in and start working on the AQ. Golem's starting to get pounded on, so that alerts all of the troops in that vicinity to the Archer Queen's presence, and they all key in on her. Now, just one quick thing here. One of the questions that does come up is, where do I deploy my hogs? And there is no perfect answer for how to plan where you want to do the hogs, because sometimes it makes sense to send them in above and below. Sometimes it makes sense to send them in one string just above or one string just below. Sometimes it might even make sense to send them from the opposite side of the base. It all really depends on the base. Now for this particular one, what you want to do is, this is a three-pronged, try to visualize this as a three-pronged attack. You want your kill team to do this, you want one string to do this, and then another string to do this, and that's how you deploy your hogs. And the reason that you want them to do this is because you don't want the kill team wandering into the core of the base right away. Typically what you want them to do is to focus on the splash damage, focus on the long-range point defenses, and then let the hogs take care of everything else. But your priority should always be, getting those mortars, getting those whiz towers, and then obviously the expos, if at all possible. I mean, that's at least how I go through the selection process, and it's going to be different for every base. But generally speaking, what you want to do is you want to send in your hogs so that they support the kill team, not that they take their targets away, but that they support them, because the kill team on its own is really pretty powerful and can take out quite a few buildings on their own. But not, if they have enough point defenses bearing down on them, then you're going to have a lot of trouble. So. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's just about keeping up with the heals. He brought 4 heals for this, and that was more than enough to cover the bomb up here and the double bombs down here. I mean, again, if you're going to be designing your base, you want to make sure that you put those double bombs literally right next to each other, because that's the only time that they're ever going to be effective. So, yeah, that covers that. He made it through this entire base with plenty of hogs to spare. I'm sure they'll be rethinking this base for successive wars, but if you see a base like this, make sure you load up hogs for it. And again, just a great example of a person who is pretty low on the rank in terms of where they are rank-wise, but he can hit pretty much anyone on the board using the right strategy against the right base. So great job there.